I finally decided to start my first project pan 9 months ago, and I underestimated just how many realizations and how much clarity that this would bring me. When I started out, I had a few goals: finish up my makeup before it expires, get to know my makeup, and then enjoy using it again. But what if I told you this has completely changed my relationship with my makeup? I feel like I have such a better understanding that just trying a product a handful of times would have never given me. Today, we're going to be going over all of the progress I've made in these last 9 months, but I'm also going to be letting you guys know what my thoughts are, as well as tips and tricks for project pans. Maybe these are things I wish I would have known before I started, or like I said, realizations I've made along the way. So in the last two project pan update videos, I said pretty clearly that the last few months have been really difficult in terms of making progress, and I gave myself some grace for a lot of the products and actually put some on pause for a while because I just wasn't enjoying them the way that I used to. And that's my first takeaway: do not add too many products. I got way too excited at the beginning stages of my project pan because I saw a little bit of progress with each product, and then I was like, oh my gosh, let me add more products so I can see more progress because this is so easy. I slowly started to realize that just was not going to be the case anymore. I don't remember what I started with, but I believe I have 21 products in my project now. Sure, I'm still seeing progress, but I have to be realistic. I know that this won't apply to everyone, but seeing that I make content for a living and I test products out for a living, I have to rotate and use a ton of things at one time, and it doesn't really make sense for me to add 20 products to finish up when I'm simultaneously testing 20 other products. And this by no means is me saying that new products are better than my old products, or that I'm not still using my collection aside from my project. I think that's another thing. I'm still using all of my other products, but officially adding them to this running list has created this invisible obligation and pressure that just isn't necessary. So my tip here is maybe start with 6 to 8 products and 1 or 2 in every category. I think if I were to go back, I would have started way slower and I'd only add a product into my project if I finish something up. So the products that I would categorize as being excess in the last 6 weeks would essentially be the ones I made absolutely no progress on. These I know for a fact I haven't reached for more than maybe 5 times. I won't be adding any progress pictures here, just so you guys know, solely because I checked and I know that there's no progress. I still want to mention them though, because I want to make sure that you guys aren't like, I wonder what happened to those products. And I want to reiterate that me not using them does not mean that I don't like them, because all of these products were added intentionally because they're things I really enjoy. First are a couple of lip liners: the Maybelline Lifter Liner in the shade Let's Bounce, the Glossier Lip Liner in the shade Buff, and the Bare Minerals Lip Liner in the shade Freestyle. I have been using these throughout the last 6 weeks, however, not enough to really make any real progress within this project because I have been testing out a ton of other lip liners. Lake and Sky 1111 perfume. Like I mentioned, I still use this, I still love this, but I have been getting an influx of different fragrances within my collection. So I have been trying to test those out as well as use other fragrances because this is just an easy go-to. This truly is still the one that I go for when I don't know what I want to wear, but I know that I want a fragrance that is going to smell good all day. House Labs Fire Moon Blush. There have been a lot of blush releases recently, you guys, so because of that I have been testing out a lot of different blushes. There's been a ton of liquid blushes, cream blushes, powder blushes. I'm sure you guys are familiar with all of the releases that have been coming out, and with the upcoming Sephora sale, I want to make sure that I have all of my thoughts together for those products for you guys. So I have been putting those at top priority, and this has kind of taken the back burner. Charlotte Tilbury Cream Shadow in the shade Amber Gold. Again, still love it. I have reached for this a couple of times, like I mentioned, but not enough for it to truly make a difference in terms of weight. I did recently get some more cream shadows as well as a couple of powder shadows, and again, I've just been testing those out. So this one unfortunately has not been used as much as we have been in the last couple of months, or really years. Two of my cream Tower 28 products. We have the Tower 28 Sculptino in the shade Getty, as well as the cream blush in the shade Magic Hour. So these I have not reached for. Again, lots of blushes that I have been testing out. So this one naturally just hasn't been tested too much. And then this as well, there were a couple of contour products that have come out that I've been just reaching for a little bit more. And while I feel like I have used this one more than a couple of these that I've already mentioned, I still don't think I've used enough to really visually see any difference here. So this next thing I learned is an oversight for sure. And it seems obvious at first, but I'll explain why it's not. So the next tip is only add products that you truly love. And here's the caveat, you know that you can finish. I of course started this project off with all the products I was confident that I'd finish because I was using them constantly and I could not get enough of them. But what I didn't consider was how the different seasons would affect my use of certain products. Like for instance, I stopped using the Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer and the Merit Flush Balm because in the summer they were just way too hydrating on my oily skin and they wouldn't last as long as I needed them to. Or the Sephora Collection Contour Stick, this one I stopped using for a while because I got more pale and it just didn't work on my skin tone, especially in the winter time. And on the flip side, even if it wasn't the seasons affecting my progress, it was also simply the type of product. It's not realistic for me to finish 3 lip liners or 2 powder blushes when I know that brands are coming out with them left and right, and I typically will be picking those up or receiving them and also testing them like I mentioned. And that's where being realistic comes into play. I have to really understand that even if I love a product, am I truly going to have a chance at finishing it? So for example, I loved and finished the Makeup by Mario brown liner so quickly because it was the only brown liner that I genuinely felt like I wasn't dying to replace with any other pencils. I think the only exception to this tip would be if I've had a product for years that's close to expiring and I just need to finish it and I know that I would regret not trying to get my money's worth out of it, you know? That's the only thing I can think. So some products that I still have been truly loving, maybe I'm seeing some good progress on or even close to finishing up, or I finished it up. This Milk Lip Oil, I have been doing a number on this. You will see in the progress photos that I have truly made such a dent in this one. I am almost done with this one. Like I said, I leave this by my desk, on my desk actually, and I just apply it every time my lips are dry. Anytime I need a little something, I will put this on. I'm still really enjoying it. However, at this point, it's kind of getting oily, the outside packaging. I don't know if it's because the constant going in and out of the dough foot or what it is. There definitely is a crack in my cap I have seen, so I'm trying to be careful with how hard I like close this. But yeah, the outside is starting to get oily. So if I wanted to take this out with me, I probably couldn't anymore. But luckily this is like my desk side lip oil. So I'm still enjoying this. I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna be able to finish this one up. This Milk Concealer. So this one is weighing in at 39 grams, whereas the last time we checked in, it was at 40 grams. I honestly feel like this one is on its last legs. What we are seeing is probably just the packaging at this point, because if you can see right there on the window, there's pretty much, I'm just scraping the sides at this point. And really the only thing on the dough foot that is actually getting product is the tip right there. So I feel like in the next week or so, this one is actually going to be empty. I just don't want to officially call it empty because I am still able to kind of scrape the sides of this. The progress I've made on Fleur Father figure from now since the last time is a little bit smaller. However, there is still a difference here. We have a little bit of something. Like I mentioned, I have been testing out other fragrances and I know I absolutely love this one, and this tends to be kind of like my event fragrance, and I haven't had a lot of events to go to in the last 6 weeks, so that kind of explains why we've kind of slowed down on this. I still feel like I'm having pretty steady progress on this, so I'm not worried or struggling with actually emptying this one. I think that I'm actually going to consider this one an empty, the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrushed Flawless Filter Setting Powder. There's really nothing there. There's just a little sliver Oh, it's like moving around too. Can you see that? There it is. It's right there, just moving around. It's pretty much done. I did end up like, the outside did end up kind of just like breaking apart. So I was using it with my brush. A lot of it was tiny little pieces that I crushed and made it loose powder, and this is all that's left. So I'm going to say this is officially an empty. Very proud of myself for this one. We did start off with a little bit of a head start with this because when I added it to my project pan, my intention was to finish it up because I was so close, but I was making very little progress at the time. So I do think that the project pan did serve its purpose in terms of this product. My Laura Mercier Ultra Blurred Press Setting Powder, the one that I repressed after it had broken. So this one is not weighing in any differently, but you can see visually that there has been a change. So I still consider this progress. When I first pressed it, it was completely pressed down, and as I've used it, we are seeing a bit more pan as we go. And I will kind of talk about this little phenomenon, if you will, when it comes to measuring progress in terms of project pans, but just know that we have made some good progress on this powder. My Makeup Forever Anywhere Caffeine Liner. So this is going to be the only lip liner that I feel like I actually made a visual change with in terms of progress here. I feel like I have been actually reaching for this a lot because I feel like it has been such a good just neutral lip liner that goes with a lot of different lip products that I have been testing out and just generally gravitating towards. Still a really good lip liner. I will say that I'm noticing that it does not stay on the lips as long as I used to think it did, which makes a lot of sense as to why they created a longer wearing lip liner or pencil liner line with this shade included. I always heard people say like this just rubs off really quickly, and I never agreed with it, but I am learning as I'm continuing to use this very consistently that it doesn't wear all day. I still get a good amount of wear out of this. I would say maybe closer to like 4 hours of wear, which is pretty good for a lip liner. So yeah, that's my takeaway this time around. And lastly, we have the Surratt Quad. Still love this quad, still think it is such a good staple. It's such an easy color story to work with. It always looks good. I love the warmth of it, but I also really love the neutral tones to it as well. Everything in this just screams balanced. It's so easy to reach for, and I think that's one of the reasons why I thought it would be an easy thing to add to our project pan. Next is an oopsie that I wish I had done more research on before I started. I wasn't entirely sure how best to measure progress for each type of makeup product, and I knew it might vary between the different types of products, but I didn't realize how much it would vary. Measuring progress for a powder is so different than a lip gloss, or how I show progress for a lip liner is not as clear as with a concealer. So I started off just by drawing some measurement lines on a piece of paper. And as you can see, some of them were like overhead shots, some of them were standing, and a few things that I learned and implemented along the way. The first one, take photos from the meniscus of the product, if it's a liquid especially. This means that you're at eye level with where the product like dips down, which will allow you the most accurate visual representation. And one of you in my comments actually suggested this, and thank you, because this has been such a game changer, such a good adjustment for me. Next is to weigh your products. Sometimes if I can't visually tell, I can still tell that there's progress by weighing it. And I find this super helpful with things like my powders and my creams especially. While you can sometimes tell, it's not always as apparent. And I think this is a great way for me to stay on track and see if it's worth continuing to use or not. We definitely saw this with that Laura Mercier pressed powder. Next is to actually draw on the products. And I haven't personally done this, but I've seen people do this with things like lip gloss or concealer or fragrances, or again, like anything liquid that you'll visually see go down. I think that this would be a super easy way to keep track without having to fuss with a piece of paper, like getting it in place, struggling to like draw the tiny line and then taking a photo while holding it. I'm definitely going to be doing this with any future products that we add. Lastly, don't be afraid to document it in multiple ways. There are some products here that have clearly decreased, but maybe don't measure differently in weight because my scale isn't sensitive enough, like that Laura Mercier pressed powder. I'm trying to be more mindful now and moving forward to record my progress several ways just for peace of mind for me. Okay, my last tip is something I struggled with unknowingly for the last 9 months, and that is not to be afraid to adjust. This is your project. This is your challenge. This is not a competition or anything that you should want to do to please other people. I started this because I thought it would be fun, and I found that not seeing progress and feeling like using some of these things, it kind of became a burden. So that ultimately took away from my biggest goal, which was to challenge myself and also have fun. And because of that, I've had to adjust a lot, whether that was to put products on pause or even add products. It really doesn't have to be that serious. I truly was getting so down on myself, and I had to seriously take a step back and be like, girly, why are you upset about this? At the end of the day, it is just makeup and nothing is set in stone. I know a lot of project planners can come off as like, I don't know, aggressive or stubborn or just too rigid when it comes to their projects, but I realized that that just isn't working for me. And I want to bring you guys videos I enjoy, and I want to make sure this is something entertaining and ultimately enjoyable for you guys to watch. As a side note, I know that there's a big discussion around project pans and under consumption core. And if you're not familiar, under consumption core is a recent social media trend encouraging minimalism, frugality, mindful consumption, promoting the use of existing resources and rejecting the culture of overconsumption and constant buying. And of course, social media took this and ran with it, creating this idea that underconsumption means having to use old or even expired makeup that you may not enjoy anymore. In my opinion, I don't like that this has become the narrative, if I'm being completely honest. That's not why I started it. I didn't even know that people thought that when I started my project pan. To me, project pan is very different from underconsumption. I mean, clearly I'm still consuming products to review and talk about on my channel, but in saying this, I don't necessarily think that underconsumption is the solution to fixing financial irresponsibility. I think getting to the root of the problem is more important than spending every day scraping at old and expired makeup, if that is your reasoning for starting a project pan. Anyways, because I think I need to adjust, I'm going to be removing some things from my project. They'll be officially out of my project pan for the foreseeable future, but who knows, maybe they'll make their way back into the project. And just because I'm removing them here does not mean I'm gonna stop using them. I'm just simply taking away the obligation if I don't feel like using it, or I'd rather try new products, or I'm feeling overwhelmed with other products, you know? So here's the list of what I'm taking out. The Sephora Collection Contour Stick. This hasn't worked for my complexion for months. And also I'm taking this out because I have found a lot of great contour products that are making me really happy currently. Kulfi Bronze Brocade. So I think having more than one cream shadow in my project pan feels overwhelming. And while I like this cream shadow so much, there's something about the silver glitters that aren't really like meshing with my current preferences when it comes to eyeshadow. Also, I've been enjoying other shadow products that I feel more inclined to use right now. The Naturium Phyto Glows in Crimson and Spice. I have 2 glow lip balms in here. And as we have seen with the Summer Fridays one, lip balms are so hard for me to use up because of my really excessive lip balm collection. I thought that I was doing myself a favor, but I feel like with lip balms, I'll kind of empty them and use them naturally in rotation anyways. Speaking of the Summer Fridays lip balm, this one I've had trouble with from the very beginning. I love this product, but again, I've been loving other lip balms over this one. And it's hard for me to commit to lip products since I have so many, and it's just not it's just not enjoyable for me right now. Makeup by Mario Skin Enhancer. I think this falls into the category, the same category as the Sephora contour stick. I've been loving so many new launches for contours and bronzers that I just haven't been reaching for this. I kept making excuses for it, but the reality is I'm not reaching for it. I haven't seen progress, and this feels like a sore spot in the project pan at this point. So although I think this is an amazing product and I loved it for a long time, I'm gonna shelf it. The Merit Flush Balm in the shade Fox. While I still reach for this, I just don't think that I'm going to be using this up anytime soon. And again, because there's been so many blush launches, it's hard for me to just commit to one. Tower 28 Magic Hour Blush. Unfortunately, I'm going to be removing this one as well for the same reason as the Merit one. And I'm pretty sure very early on I did remove this, or I put it on pause, and I haven't really actively wanted to use it outside of this project. So I don't know, I just don't feel inclined to keep it in. This Kaja lip oil, I'm very, very on the fence. I think that this is going to stay in the project, maybe be on pause. I don't know. I'm going to give you guys a for sure answer based on how much I've used it. I want to say that I'm going to be a little bit more mindful and try to use this one more often because I just haven't been reaching for it. Let's call this a pause, not necessarily taking it out completely. So those were all of my tips and my thoughts about project pans and my personal one. Overall, I'm still enjoying the process, and obviously I wouldn't keep doing this if I didn't. I feel like it's still serving its purpose for me, and the last thing I want to know is that I love hearing about your project pans. It feels like we're doing this together, and it's fun to get like your input and your updates. So I don't want to stop doing this, mainly because I think it's fun, but also I really enjoy hearing from you guys. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to be linking my project pan playlist here for you if you want to get caught up and see how we got to this point. But until next time, you guys, take care. Bye.